The Federal Communications Commission voted today to require post-mission disposal of low Earth orbit satellites within 5 years. That is a dramatic reduction from the previous 25-year timeframe that has been in place since the 1990s. Although this new rule is not yet backed by NASA or Congress, the FCC hopes to reduce the rapidly growing number of vehicles currently orbiting the Earth, which pose a potential threat to other orbiting vehicles and launch missions.
So have you seen the newsman?
About the FCC? Yeah, it's just a preliminary phase. It hasn't even hit Capitol Hill yet.
Either way, hopefully it'll do some good. Some of those orbital collisions can get really gnarly.
Speaking of which, it's on my agenda today to talk about our satellite disposal plan. Whether it's in 5 years or 50 years, that satellite has to go somewhere when it's done.
And this decision plays a big part in our other design constraints. Hopefully we can come to a consensus today so we can move on to the next steps. Have you finalized a budget for the propulsion system?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. My team and I have come to an agreement, and we decided on the number that we mentioned last time.
I thought we agreed that wasn't enough to afford the additional weight for the fuel during the launch.
We acknowledge your concerns, but we've massaged the figures as much as we can.
Well, if we don't launch with the additional fuel required, we're going to need another plan in order to provide the power for the thrusters. How about solar panels?
Our budget for the propulsion system is final. Make something work.
We can't launch without a disposal plan, especially given the FCC's new rule. However, we can't work within that budget constraint that they've given us.
But they seemed really firm about that budget.
I don't want to design something that's just going to be floating around aimlessly for decades. And what if something happens to it? What if it crashes into something?
We can always just remove it down the line. It's okay.
Do you know how expensive that would be?
We'll probably have money by then, but we don't have that money right now. This client is huge, and I have no doubt that their growth will help us fund the removal efforts when the project is complete. I really think it's in our best interest to stick with them through this.
It doesn't seem like they care too much about the long term.
I'll think about that. I'll make my decision before our next meeting.
Okay, let's go ahead and start the meeting. I would like to discuss our ground track plan.
But before we do that, I want to circle back briefly about the disposal plan. I've given it some thought, and we decided to proceed with your initial budget for the propulsion system.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to working with your company on this mission. 25 years from now, it's not going to really be our problem anyway.